Hey friends, welcome back to Great Adventure. I'm your host, Mark Guido, and we're spending this week in world-famous Banff, Alberta, Canada. Now, Banff National Park may be one of Canada's most popular tourist destinations. Perhaps, though, it's gotten a little too popular. We'll discuss that and more on this episode. Stay tuned. Banff National Park is Canada's first national park, established in 1885 as Rocky Mountains Park. Located in Alberta's Rocky Mountains west of Calgary, Banff encompasses 2,564 square miles of mountainous terrain, with many glaciers and ice fields, dense coniferous forest, and alpine landscapes surrounding the Bow River Valley. The park is open year-round, and much of the winter tourism here focuses on the park's three ski resorts, Sunshine Village, Mount Norquay, and Lake Louise. Forests here are dominated by lodgepole pine at lower elevations, and Engelmann spruce in higher ones below the tree line, above which is primarily rocks and ice, with glaciers remaining at many higher elevations, like this hanging glacier on 11,626-foot Temple Mountain. Grizzly and black bear, cougar, wolverine, elk, bighorn sheep, and moose are all found here, along with hundreds of bird species. On the slopes of Sulphur Mountain just outside of town, you can board the Banff Gondola for a ride to a scenic view at the summit over lunch at the Sky Bistro. Alternatively, you can take a relaxing soak with a view at Banff Upper Hot Springs. Facilities are provided in a restored 1930s bathhouse on the site. Admission costs $17.50 Canadian per adult, and the views are priceless. It's open until 10 p.m. And on this Thursday night, lots of folks felt this was a good idea. With conflicting claims over the discovery of hot springs in Banff, in 1885 Prime Minister John A. Macdonald decided to set aside a small reserve of 10 square miles around the lower hot springs at Cave and Basin as a public park known as the Banff Hot Springs Reserve, now Cave and Basin National Historic Site here within Banff National Park. The park was later expanded to 260 square miles and named Rocky Mountains Park as Canada's first national park and the third established in North America after Yellowstone and Mackinac National Parks. In 1902, the park was expanded to cover 4,400 square miles, encompassing areas around Lake Louise and the Bow, Red Deer, Kananaskis, and Spray Rivers. Park boundaries changed several more times up until 1930. When the area of Banff was fixed at 2,586 square miles with the passage of the National Parks Act, which also renamed the park Banff National Park, named for the Canadian Pacific Railway Station, which in turn was named after the Banffshire region in Scotland. For years, people came to this pool, called the Basin, to enjoy its warm, mineral-rich, spring-fed water. Today, the only things bathing here are microscopic plants and animals, including the endangered Banff spring snail. A series of stairs and boardwalks climbs through the hot springs, trickling down from above both the cave and the basin. The Canadian Pacific Railway was instrumental in Banff's early years, building both the Banff Springs Hotel shown here and the Chateau Lake Louise, attracting tourists through extensive advertising. In the early 20th century, roads were built in Banff, at times by war internees from World War I and through Great Depression-era public works projects. We'll check out the town of Banff, do some hiking and kayaking, show the National Park campground where we're staying this week, explore a coal mining ghost town, share a great way to save a ton on diesel in Canada, and most importantly, explain what we've found disappointing about Banff, right after we take a quick ad break. So stay tuned. The main commercial center of the park is the town of Banff, established in 1885 in the Bow River Valley, and was the first municipality to incorporate within a Canadian National Park. It's entirely within the park, and park admission is required to even visit the town. Banff is now one of Canada's most popular tourist destinations, with over 5 million visits annually. And therein lies the problem. We try to maintain a positive outlook on just about everywhere we travel in our grand adventures, but there are simply too many people here. And we're not even here during the busy season. Canadian kids are still in school, and the summer season really doesn't kick off until Canada Day on July 1st. There is nothing you can do to take away the stunning beauty of the Canadian Rockies. However, Banff National Park doesn't feel like a national park. It's so overly developed. It's almost impossible to get a parking spot in the town of Banff. And aside from the train station on the edge of town, all parking in Banff requires payment. Moraine Lake is one of the most famous views within the national park. However, recently, Parks Canada began requiring you to make a reservation and pay for a shuttle that you need to board 13 miles away. So we won't be bringing you to Moraine Lake on this episode. In fact, everything here feels like a money grab. We went to go film Lake Louise, but when we got there, we discovered that in addition to the park entrance fee, they also expected us to pay $37 to park there. We refused and left. This whole situation is a real shame, for the scenery here in the Canadian Rockies is absolutely stunning. But Banff has become too popular for its own good, and it has limited the ways in which we can enjoy this national park. There are 3 national park RV campgrounds located just outside the town of Banff, all on Tunnel Mountain. We reserved a week in Tunnel Mountain Trailer Court, the only one of the 3 with full hookups. Sites here cost $42.50 per night Canadian, or $31.12 US at today's exchange rate, and need to be booked the second that reservations open for the season. This campground lacks any real charm. In the way it's laid out, we really don't get much usable real estate at our site. It feels like a camping factory, with campers, a substantial percentage of whom are driving rental motorhomes, moving in and out each day from identical, parallel rows of pull-through sites. But it's comfortable, quiet, and convenient, and serves its purpose for us this week. Just to make our visit to Banff extra squishy, wildfire smoke moved in on Tuesday night and enshrouded the entire Bow Valley throughout Wednesday. Fortunately, it was short-lived and did little to negatively impact our experience here. Canmore, located just outside the park boundary, originated as a coal mining town, but has been growing rapidly in recent years to serve increasing demands of tourists visiting the adjacent national park. Canmore's pedestrian-friendly town center surrounds 8th Street, also referred to locally as Main Street, and is lined with small shops, restaurants, and galleries. It's also as busy as the town of Banff. One thing we wanted to talk about in this episode is diesel. For campers traveling from the United States, while the exchange rate currently provides a healthy discount on everything up here, fuel prices in Canada can nevertheless induce sticker shock. On top of that, most trucker fuel pumps in Canada are unmanned cardlock pumps that require a fleet card. American RVers may be familiar with programs like Open Roads or Mudflap to access the trucker fuel network at a discount. But neither program offers access to Canadian stations. So before we left Utah this spring, we signed up with Nationwide Fuel. We're not sponsored by them in any way, but we're saving a ton up here with Nationwide Fuel, and it gets us into the cardlock pumps. My first fill-up cost me $105.10 Canadian, including all taxes, for 83 liters or 21.9 gallons. If you do the math, that represents $3.53 US per gallon, comparable to what we were paying on the US side of the border. Nearby consumer pumps were all charging $1.46 Canadian per liter, which equates to $4.07 US per gallon, saving me 54 cents per gallon. Nationwide Fuel's cards may be tied to your bank account or credit card, and work at some US truck stops too. For more information, visit nationwidefuel.ca. We'll take you kayaking on a scenic glacial lake, explore a coal mining ghost town, and do a little bit of Banff's famous hiking following another quick ad break to pay the bills. So stay tuned. It's the weekend and the crowds are here. I'm going to try my hand at avoiding people this Saturday morning by getting the kayak out on Two Jack Lake. Two Jack Lake is nestled between Cascade Mountain, Mount Gerard, and Rundle Mountain, within Banff National Park, just north of the town of Banff. There's a forested campground on its shores for tents and small RVs up to 27 feet. But there's also a large public day use area with a swimming beach that's perfect for launching a kayak or paddleboard from. Two Jack Lake is indeed named after two Jacks. The first was Jack Stanley, who operated a boat concession on nearby Lake Minnewanka, and the second was Jack Waters, who worked at the mines in Bankhead. More on both of those places after our paddle. While the day use area here can indeed get very busy, I've successfully left most folks behind just by getting out on the spectacularly turquoise-colored waters of Two Jack Lake. It's gotten much busier at the beach while I was out on the lake. It's time to leave, And we'll drive just a short bit upstream to view the much larger Lake Minnewanka, a natural lake enlarged by a power dam in 1941, such that it's now 13 miles long, making it the second longest lake in the mountain parks of the Canadian Rockies. Also nearby is the coal mining ghost town of Bankhead, developed in 1903 by the Pacific Coal Company, a subsidiary of the Canadian Pacific Railway, to extract the high-grade anthracite coal deposits hidden within Cascade Mountain. All of Bankhead's buildings were built and owned by the company and rented to the residents. This was Lower Bankhead, which was considered the industrial part of town. Most miners lived in Upper Bankhead, about a quarter mile up the hill. While most cultures lived side by side in Upper Bankhead, a small group of Chinese who worked in the tipple sorting coal lived in a shantytown behind the slag heaps in Lower Bankhead. The rhubarb, growing wild among the slag heaps here today, spread from the abandoned gardens of the Chinese after Bankhead died. The mine closed in 1922, when the town's population was around 1,000. In 1926, many of the town's buildings were moved to Banff and Canmore. I can't really come to Banff without going hiking, the park's most popular activity. And I've also picked one of the park's most popular trails to the Tunnel Mountain summit, on a Saturday. So I've waited until late afternoon, hoping that most folks are heading back to their hotel room or camper to prepare for dinner. I'm also bringing my e-bike from the campground to the trailhead to avoid any potential parking issues. For a relatively short hike with a modest elevation gain, Tunnel Mountain sure delivers some views. That's our campground down there. And with that, it's time for me to head back down Tunnel Mountain to get packed up and head off to next week's grand adventure at Yoho National Park in British Columbia. Maybe I was a bit harsh on Banff. Perhaps, though, our impression matches your experience. That's what the comment section is for. So drop us a note down below and let us know about your grand adventure in Banff. We hope that you found it interesting visiting Banff National Park with us. If you liked this episode, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up down below. And while you're down below, that's where you'll find the comment section where we'd love to hear from you each and every week. Now, coming up next week, we're going to be hoping for a quieter experience up the road in Yoho National Park. So if you're not yet a grand adventurer yourself, there is no better time than right now for you to go smash that little subscribe button right down there in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And ring that notification bell to be sure that you never miss a grand adventure, which we premiere right here every Wednesday evening. We'd also be honored if you shared the channel with your friends, family, and on social media. So until next Wednesday from Yoho National Park, please remember, life is nothing but a grand adventure. We'll see you then.